So Marvel Rivals is a massive hit with a large and growing fan base, a lot of colorful characters, fast-paced gameplay. It's no surprise to see why it's so popular. But sometimes while playing it, I can't help but feel that the kills are coming a bit too easily. The wins a bit too smooth. And if you're one of those players that feels the same way, you're not alone. So welcome to the channel where we explore game development, AI, and everything in between. And today, we're going to be covering Marvel Rivals and how NetEase might be using bots to manipulate your matches. Let's get into it. So let's start by talking about the actual accusation that's being thrown around. According to some players, when you're in quick play and when you're on a losing streak or suffer a particularly brutal defeat, the game's going to step in to help you out. It does this by placing you in a match against bot opponents that's going to play below your skill level, essentially meaning that it's going to be an easy win. To sweeten the deal, if there's room on your team, it will place up to 2 bots on your team. So this means that not only is your team guaranteed to win, but no actual player will suffer the humiliation of being the lowest ranked on the winning team. So if you really think about it, in these matches, up to 66% of the players playing in it aren't real. It feels like we're on the Truman Show. Is anything real? Are they watching us now? Are there cameras? So before we get too carried away, let's actually look at some of the evidence that bots might be infesting quick play. So let's review some of the evidence of bots in the game. So here you can see a few of the games that I've played recently, and you can see for this game here is the one we're actually going to be looking at first. You can see it came right after a pretty crushing defeat, 0-2. I did not do very well this match at all. And so the game decided to give me a leg up on the next game. So as you can see, we won and I actually got MVP, not to brag. But if you actually inspect some of these other players on the enemy team, you can see that you get a message saying that the account is actually restricted. You can't view it at all. And it's the same for all the players on this team. And you'll find that 2 of our own players actually have the same notification. Now, it's important to note that this is not the same one as if someone had actually hidden their profile. For example, this player on our team has their access actually limited. So you can see that's a different message from what players can set on their own privacy settings. That's a different message entirely. So while these restricted profiles are certainly suspicious, they're not definitive proof that they're using bots. So let's hop into the gameplay and see how these supposed bots brawl. So at first glance, the bots might appear legit. They have somewhat realistic sounding names. They play around in the spawn room, putting down sprays, and Jesus Christ, Punisher. They're a lot more human than I thought. But once the game actually starts is when we start to see really clear evidence that these are bots. As you can see, they all travel in similar paths, almost directly on top of each other sometimes. They'll always take the optimal path to the objectives and very rarely stray off this path or get lost in the map. You'll also notice that most movement abilities aren't actually used at all, like this Punisher here. He has a zipline ability that makes him go a little bit faster, but he never uses it, just instead opting to walk to the objective normally, like a boring person. When the combat actually starts, things get even stranger. Their aim will often snap awkwardly to targets, but doesn't always lock directly onto players. And sometimes their lock on is pretty erratic, especially whenever the gameplay gets really chaotic. Actually watching them fire, they seemed almost designed to miss most of their shots. A lot of times they'll aim around players or they'll snap away right before dealing a final blow. It feels intentional, as if they're trying to create a chaotic battle, but ultimately a forgiving fight. Another piece of evidence is the fact that bots will sometimes blatantly aim and shoot at players through the map, like with this Iron Man. Like he gets caught on the roof and he just keeps trying to shoot the players through the roof, even going so far as to waste his ult. And that's just the general behaviors. When you start to look at character-specific ones, it gets even weirder. Characters like Luna will spaz out their frost shield to every player on the team.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds.
Cloak and Dagger will always stay in their dagger form and won't swap to their cloak form ever. And melee heroes like the Hulk, well, just watch this clip. Hulk, buddy, what are you doing? What's interesting is the bots can ramp up their competence when needed. If the match is about to end too early, they suddenly become a lot more effective, pushing the players back to keep the game going. But this sudden effectiveness never lasts. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but I think this is enough to kind of definitively say that, yeah, there are bots. So, with restricted profiles, weird robotic movements, strange combat mechanics, and of course the odd character quirks, it's hard to deny that Marvel Rivals is using bots to hand players wins in quick play. This of course begs the question of why? And the answer is pretty obvious. Because losing sucks. Look, it's no secret that losing streaks frustrate players. It leads to a lot of toxicity, and it overall makes the game less fun for everybody. There's even some evidence that once you're on a losing streak, it's really hard to break out of it naturally, creating a negative spiral of just constant losses. Ever have those games where you're just too in your head to focus on actually playing well? By giving players matches they're designed to win, the game is trying to reset your emotional state and keep you engaged. And this concept of having easy matches in matchmaking isn't entirely new. Even Halo 2 and 3 allowed unbalanced matchmaking to create a mix of easy, competitive, and difficult matches. Max Hoberman on Twitter, who worked on Halo's matchmaking, argued that a variety is key for a healthy multiplayer experience. You don't need every match nail-bitingly close. You need some of those easier matches and some of those matches where you honestly get stomped. It's also important to point out that Halo 2 and 3 didn't seem to intentionally set you up to win or lose your matches. It was just a side effect of the matchmaking system creating matches with a wider range of skill levels. That cycle creates a much healthier experience for the players. If I had to guess, I would say that the Marvel Rivals developers were trying to iterate on this idea. And instead of using real players that are set up to lose, they're instead using bots to take that loss for them. This way, players break out of their losing streak and they reset and are ready to go back against real players. So in theory, this mechanic could work to encourage a healthier emotional cycle as players are going through the game. However, once players realize what's happening, it tends to have the opposite effect. A lot of players feel that it's demeaning or demoralizing to be placed up against bots just to be handed an empty win. And they kind of have a point. Get an awesome play? Maybe it was against bots. Finally clinch an awesome win after a hard night? Probably bots. And so it's making a lot of players second guess any of their awesome moments instead of just enjoying the moments for what they are. So what started out as a way to try and boost morale and encourage a healthier emotional cycle in a game is instead having the opposite effect, making players question whether any of their kick-ass moments were even real or not. Overall, I think the developers over at NetEase are genuinely doing this out of a place of good intentions. They want their players to have fun. But ultimately, even if this was well-intentioned, it's just coming off as pandering. But I would love to hear what you think. Do you think that the bots take away from the sweetness of victory? Do you think they have a place in the game at all? Let me know. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. That's 3. You think this could be like a Secret Wars thing? You can never trust if anyone's actually human? That could be cool.